On Thursday's preview podcast, Robbie opened with some words of wisdom from the late, great Anthony Bourdain, and I am going to do the same. Travelling isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts, even breaks your heart. But that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body. You take something with you. And hopefully, you pump Partick bloody Thistle when you get them back to Stars Park. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron. And joining me tonight to pick through the tastiest morsels and gristliest gristle from Partick Thistle 3, Wraith Rovers 2, we've got Iain Latto, first of all. How are you, Iain?
Yes, I'm good. I've had a nice relaxing weekend. Let's get into the football.
Good stuff. And we've got Blair Hopcroft as well. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, mate. I'm looking forward to this, actually. It was actually quite an enjoyable 90 minutes, result aside. It was one of the kind of almost a barnstormer, maybe, close.
Yeah, it was kind of end-to-end at times. And it's definitely, I mean, it was a... I don't know quite how to describe it. I was going to say it was an enjoyable game. It wasn't. I didn't enjoy it.
It wasn't at all, but there's lots to unpick, though.
Yeah, if we'd won, I would have said that's one of the games of the season. But we didn't. But I tell you, but just before we do get into the game itself, which will obviously take up the bulk of the time this evening, we did get 3 new loan signings on Friday. Now, we didn't actually get to see any of them in action yesterday, so this would be relatively brief thoughts, I would imagine. But Iain, give me just your initial reaction to the arrival of Josh Gentles from Rangers, Ewan Wilson from Motherwell, and Dara O'Connor from York City.
Yeah, I think it's going to offer the squad the depth which it was quite sorely lacking. With a couple of kind of single points of failure and stuff in the squads, which we've addressed, most notably the left-back area. Wilson seems to have quite a good pedigree about him, despite his young age. He's a lot of appearances in the Premier League. Motherwell fans online seem to be saying that he is very much a left back rather than a left wing back. And that might lend itself to us being a bit more malleable with our shape and going for more of a kind of flat, rigid back four rather than the 3 with the wing backs. O'Connor, it's a funny one because if we do go to a 4, we've almost ended up with too many centre halves. So you're going to end up with a situation where we've got like 3 centre halves sitting on the bench if we are playing a 4. So I'm keen to see how that'll go. I imagine it might just change depending on who we're playing week to week. And Gentles will give us another option in the forward position. What is he, 17?
I think so.
He's a young lad, so he'll be looking to develop and get some minutes probably initially off the bench and try and make his mark and push for the first 11. So a bit of depth without them being any of them being real showstoppers. And none of them that have signed are going to kind of walk straight into into our first 11. So yeah, fine, all fine.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'm really quite impressed with the Ewan Wilson one came out of nowhere. But Dara O'Connor's in the same bracket where we were very clearly looking for backups. And it's a really tricky market to be in. It's a tricky sell when, you're phoning up a centre half to say, right, I'm going to bring you in, but I've already got 3 really good championship centre halves. So, Dan O'Connor's kind of going home at night, get his voodoo doll out, hoping for an injury to actually get some game time. And Ewan Wilson's obviously similar. Like, Lewis Stevenson played more minutes for us than anybody else did last season. That's the position on that basis where you're least likely to get some game time. So on that basis, I think it's quite impressive to get somebody who's played that much football. We've not had to go out and just get a teenager from somewhere to fill that. You're talking about basically senior pros. Josh Gent was obviously a little bit different, but I think we saw with Finlay Pollock last season, sometimes up front that's where you can get away with that the most. It's like just a kid who knows how to score goals is fine. You're not worrying about the same kind of judgment or tactical discipline elsewhere. Blair, give me your thoughts on any of those three as well, but also just briefly, Lewis Gibson goes out on loan to Montrose as well. Give me your thoughts on that, please.
So yeah, I'd echo everything you've said about the signings coming in. I think they're the exact positions we need. I think the too many centre backs argument would be true if J. Rowe was still in favour. I'm not entirely sure how centre half Doherty is in that kind of back four. So he may well not actually be down the pecking order quite as far as he could have been. I mean, I said when we talked about the cooperation agreement and all the rest of it, like, aside from the fact that it's a really stupid system, I'm quite happy to have boys coming in, padding our bench, to allow boys like Gibson to go out and play football, because Gibson's not going to get a lot of game time in the current system. It's clear he's not. I don't think he's the kind of player I'd like to see move on permanently, though. I think he's got a lot to offer, and I'd kind of like to see him continue to develop. And if you had reserve football, you could keep him at the club and keep him around the place. But also, Montrose is a kind of perfect fit in that regard because they're part-time. So he's still going to be training with us, I would imagine, 3 or 4 days a week. Going up there, training a couple of days a week and playing with them on a Saturday. So it keeps him in the in and around the squad, keeps him in and around what's going on. But he gets some minutes, hopefully, because he needs to play. And to be fair, I think Montague's probably no far behind him in that regard, actually. He probably needs a wee loan move as well, just to go and play some regular football. But it was a really pleasing hour and a half of news coming out. It was I was fed up with the get rid of Potter, we're never signing anybody chat that seems to be rolling around on social media. Oh man, it's so boring, man. To the point where there was literally people online saying all this nonsense or all this pish about you've got to wait for the right player. What are you advocating? Just go and get somebody. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, that I thought the same thing. Of course you wait for the right player. It's like when people say, it's that's too much of a good thing. Yeah, by definition, if it's too much, then it's too much. Yeah. That's what that means. Of course you wait for the right player.
It's like standing at a bus stop and going, my bus isn't coming. I'm just getting on the next bus. I'm just going to get on the next one. Don't care where it's going. I'm not waiting for the right bus. I'm getting on the bus. Shut up. Drives me mad.
But it does mean, we basically does mean, effectively, overnight, partway through Friday evening, we go from having just enough players to fill a squad. We basically, up until Saturday there, we've had 20 available players for all of our league games, and you can pick 20 players. So Callum Smith's just been watching games by himself in the stand, for one thing. But now, as you say, you're basically a couple of guys have to drop out, but you're talking about, as you say, it's Gibson's obviously slightly different. He's going out on loan, but Logan Rayside, Callum Hanna, with the greatest respect to them, their places have been taken by, as I've said, senior pros. There's no way to look at that other than as an upgrade as things stand. So it's a good place to be, especially when you look around and you look at St Johnstone are the obvious example. There's a big squad there. You just look at the advantage of that. You go, they can effectively lose anybody, and it doesn't really matter other than their goalkeeper. They've got kind of same level replacements right across the board. And
unless they lose 3 players to international duty, in which case they have to call their game off because their squad's not big enough to cope with that.
Can't do with it 8% of your squad, Blair. You've got to be reasonable. But we're now not really far from that. Kind of same position, really. So it's definitely nice place to be. Nice kind of settled squad. Be interested to see if anybody else does come through. You would imagine if they do, it'll be more Rangers children. But I will keep my counsel on that for this evening.
He's also I was going to say, just reading between the lines in the interview. Also, I'm presuming not going to be available for Saturday because he's going to be away on international duty. He's away with Wales 19s. And he spoke about Saturday, because Davey said something about a Tuesday, and then he was like, Saturday, then Tuesday. So I'm like, all right, so he's obviously away for a week, effectively. So he'll be away over the weekend, so he's not even going to be available for Morton.
Yeah. Which is, yeah. I mean, we'll see how many games he's actually available for, because you never know what will happen kind of later in the season with that as well.
That's it.
But, well, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, this is the whatever flaws exist in the system, as you say. He's free.
Not many. Yes,
effectively. So fine. I mean, you don't have a player you're not paying for. It's not as bad as not having a player you are paying for, I suppose, in a very literal sense. Let's come around to the game then. So, I mean, given that spoilers, we get beat. I suspect there'll be some chat about kind of changes to the lineup and shapes and systems and all this kind of stuff before the next game or next week. But going into this one, Blair, were you comfortable with an unchanged team?
I was unsurprised. I wouldn't say I was comfortable with it. I have to say, it's probably, for me, it's the first time I think Robson's got it. He's actually really got it wrong. Like, I don't think it's rocket science to look at Partick Thistle and know that they're going to play wide, that they play with wingers, and that arguably their best two players are their right winger and their left winger.
Yeah,
their third best player is probably the coming back from injury winger that's sitting on the bench. So wing is where they go, where they attack, and it was kind of clear right from the off that they were targeting that right side, trying to get in behind Josh Mullen. And I mean, I don't know if it was just me. I was sitting in the stand going, well, of course that's what they're going to do. Like, it didn't feel... You weren't going, oh, man, never thought of that. So, to go with exactly the same lineup, I mean, it nearly paid off. To give him his dues, if McMullen takes the ball off the keeper in the first 10 seconds, we're all sitting here with a completely different story. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. It didn't work. He got it wrong. The lineup did not suit the opposition that we were playing.
So, in the post-match interview, Barry Robson says a few times, he says, like, we didn't start well, we didn't start like ourselves. And Davey asks him specifically, like, could you put your finger on why that is? And he says no. Ian, it sounds to me like Blair's suggesting that it was the lineup, it was the kind of way that he set out the team. Would you support that, or have you got an alternative theory?
Nah, I think that's a fair assumption. As Blair's touched on there, like, did they take hours and hours of technical, tactical analysis by Mark Wilson through the week with the laser pointer to pinpoint that they were going to try and put it in behind Josh Mullen? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think everybody sitting in the stand kind of knew that was what was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened right from the start. As soon as either of the centre halves got the ball, they were looking to play it, if not in behind them, then just kind of towards them. Obviously, he's not as good in the air, so they're thinking if we can pick up second balls and kind of build an attack off of that, then that's what we're going to do. And if you're looking at like that right hand side, you've got Docherty, who is a centre half, but we're saying he probably wouldn't play as a centre half if we were playing as a 4. And then you've got someone who's then not a right wing back playing beside him. You're going to go on that side because on the other side you've got the experience of Hanlon and Stevenson. Yeah. I get why we kept this information, and we'd obviously won. Was it the previous 2? We'd beat Ayr, then we beat Dunfermline. So I understand why it happened, but like, if we are just going to keep the same team every time we win, we're going to become incredibly predictable very, very quickly as the season goes on.
And I think there was suggestions beforehand where it was like, how much does this rely on scoring in the first 70 seconds? Because it hadn't been tested otherwise. And well, it's obviously a little bit kind of trite. I mean, it does... I think it was 7 minutes, I think, that Thistle scored, so it was very much the opposite of that. Really what I'm thinking there is thinking of kind of alternatives, because I suppose the sort of received wisdom really on Josh Mullen coming back into the team is that, slightly counterintuitively, he's almost more defensive than J. Rowe is. And I think, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, I promise you, but I think part of that is just Josh Mullen's just that wee bit fear of being caught out. Like, because he's a winger to trade, when you ask him to be a wing back, he's so conscious of, like, I don't want to fall into my old habits. I don't want to get caught out here. He actually ends up being more defensive than your defender because J Rowe's not. He's not double checking any of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, obviously, your other option would be to go to the 4, as Robson does kind of further into this game that we'll get to. But just on the straight swap, Ian, I'm going to come back to you because I know how Blair feels about J Rowe. He's not his biggest fan. Do you think if you just straight swap 5 minutes before kickoff, J Rowe's playing instead of Josh Mullen, how much do you think that affects the opening kind of 20 minutes of that game?
Well, he certainly does better in the air. I think we all know that J Rowe's an excellent. One, he's got an excellent leap, and two, he's a very proficient headerer of the ball. So the targeting of the kind of long diagonal ball has less of an impact straight away because J Rowe just goes and wins the header, and you possibly don't get yourself in that position. I'm thinking specifically of the second goal, where it just kind of goes straight up in the air. I am a wee bit concerned that Rowe has come in, played all the League Cup games, and has just been bombed out and isn't getting a shout at all now, despite the fact that we're playing a formation that's tailor-made for him. Do you know what I mean? It's tailor-made for the wing-backs, and we've signed a wing-back because we needed a wing-back, and you're 3 games into the league and he's not really had a kick. A wee bit concerned about that. I'm hoping that it's maybe just, I don't know, a fitness or a confidence thing, as opposed to Barry just doesn't fancy him because it's had to sign him. So, do you know what I mean? If you've got your man and then they suddenly know your man, that's no on J Rowe, that's on you.
Yeah, we're kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see for next week how much changes, both in terms of kind of shape and kind of personnel, and also really approach. Because we've talked about the kind of right back situation there, but again, it's the repeat of effectively playing without a striker, and it's been, as you've said, we've won 2 games, and we scored 2 goals in the first half yesterday. We still didn't have a striker on the park, but again, it's a very specific way of playing. And I think it's quite notable as well, in the sense that, if you're Mark Wilson and you watch last Friday night, you can't help but notice, like, this team are playing without a striker. I'm going to do something, about that or in response to that. It's quite, it kind of demands a reaction from your opponents, and it's, so it'll be interesting to see if that is kind of repeated again next week. But I'm sure we'll come to that in due course. Yes, Blair.
I was going to say, I get that I lack impartiality on this point, given that I'm becoming a bit of a Josh Mullen fanboy, and I'm clearly not Joe's biggest fan. I'm fully fledged. I'm the poster boy for the barbecue that we have once a year. Honestly, like, for me, this idea that J Rowe is this fantastic in the air headerer of the ball, I get that he absolutely is from a corner and attacking the ball in that kind of attacking sense. But the one game that I had, I'm maybe slightly out of this as well because I didn't see a lot of the League Cup campaign because I was on holiday. But I came back and I went to the Inverness game, and J Rowe didn't win a header all day. They played that that exact diagonal ball up to him all day, and he never won a header. He could not, for love nor money, get the better of I can't mind the boy's name, that wee nippy boy with the blonde hair. Anyway,
Longstaff.
Didn't he? What was that?
Longstaff.
I think it was Longstaff. But he just didn't win any headers. I mean, he wasn't terrible. I'm not like saying he was. It was the game where I'm kind of going, he's not really attacking the ball in a defensive sense. But also, I think it's probably worth noting that in the first 15 minutes or so, they targeted that right-hand side. I actually don't think Josh Mullen did a lot wrong. I don't think he kind of cost us anything or whatever. It became one of those things where it just became constant. It was always in that corner. And I'm not being funny, if you chuck the ball near any player in our squad 10, 15 times in the first 15 minutes, they're not going to get it right 10, 15 times. Like, I'll give you that. It's you're just law of averages. There's going to be a mistake in there somewhere. But I actually thought he coped with it okay. The shape just wasn't working.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us are, slaughtering Josh Mullen or saying
Not
that
at
this
all.
is all Josh Mullen's
definitely
fault or
not.
anything like that. I think to a degree it's cause and effect. It's
Yeah.
like Thistle are doing that because it's Josh Mullen. Because that's, again,
Oh,
as you
totally.
would. You're not watching them every week. You look at it and you go, right, well, that boy's a winger and they're playing him at wing
Yeah.
back. And again,
And it's not Stevenson and
Aidan
Hamlin,
Fitzpatrick's,
he says.
as you say, I mean, you could, I think on any given weekend, you could swap it between him and Chalmers. But if he's not the best player, he's the second best player. So you're going to want to try and use him anyway. And it makes sense. It's the easiest way to get at us, I suppose.
Totally.
It is down that side and through Aidan Fitzpatrick. And yeah, it's not that, he was constantly squaring up Josh Mullen and going by him and all this kind of stuff. It's really just, I suppose, it's about, like anything else, you're always going to have weaknesses somewhere, and it's how do you combat them and what do you kind of change for next time. And obviously, it's a very clear talking point when, as we've said, you're leaving ostensibly the defender that you went out and specifically signed on the bench in place of the guy that you spent all last season saying he's doing really well there, but we really need to bring in a specific someone who does that job. But no, I mean, he's pops up in the highlights a fair bit in terms of the chances we get in that first half as well. By no means was he, the kind of standout at fault or anything like that. I mean, in terms of the goals themselves, so let's just kind of run into them. So the first one, as we say, it's only 7 minutes in. It kind of just seemed to come from nowhere, really. One of those that it's like 50 other nothing bits of play in the middle of the park, and then in the blink of an eye, it's a goal effectively. So there's a kind of little bit of head tennis in the middle of the park. Sean Byrne comes across tracking a man, and then again, whether you want to say this is his fault or not, I don't know, but Jordan Doherty gets kind of dragged right into the midfield, picking up Robbie Crawford, and the ball just kind of drops back a little bit, and I think it's Ben Stanway. Just one of these balls where all he has to do is just put it into about a 60 square yard area of the park. Just knocks it into that, and then Fitzpatrick's away. And again, Doherty's already up. Starting positions, I think him and Mullen are roughly in about the same place, but Fitzpatrick's quick. And as he gets away, once he's in the box, all he's got to do is square it. And Tony Walton will get many easier finishes than that. I mean, obviously we've talked a fair bit about the kind of general situation that goal takes place in, Ian, but is there anything specifically about that one that you want to kind of pick apart?
I think you've covered the most of it there. It's just one of them. Do you know what I mean? Like the ball for Stanway is good. It's well weighted, and Fitzpatrick doesn't really have to. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to do much other than use his pace to get there, and Mullen's never getting there. Fordyce has Watt in the middle, but because Doherty is out of position, he leaves Watt and tries to cover the space, but doesn't quite get there in time. And then Hanlon almost gets in Ray gets in Hanlon's way as he's trying to get back in, and he has to vault over him. And as you say, it's an easy finish. As easy a goal as you're likely to score.
Yeah, Blair, for you, anything in that one?
No, I'd agree completely. I actually, it's one of the things playing with the back three. Doherty does come, and he comes quite a long way, but by the nature of a back three, you need that. We've talked a lot about you find Hanlon popping up randomly quite far forward in that, but it's kind of part of that shape. I actually think Ian's bang on in that middle bit is that for me, Fordyce should have moved straight away and Hanlon should have come over on Watt. That should have happened as soon as Doherty hasn't won the header. And the ball's kind of just dropped. For me, those two centre-halves just need to shuffle over. Yeah. And that's almost kind of nullified because you've got somebody shutting down Fitzpatrick and then you've got somebody on Watt, whereas actually what ends up happening is they both drift over and they're on neither. It's just kind of in between the two. Just a wee bit slow to kind of react to it, I thought.
Yeah. I agree with you completely, but at the same time, I'm not actually sure it would have made any difference.
No, maybe
I
not.
don't know that Fordyce is actually going to get across, even if he does, as you say, kind of moves his attention to Fitzpatrick immediately, because he's clearly in kind of two minds. I think as you say, the weight of the ball and the pace that Fitzpatrick's got, I think he's away already. So maybe you manage to get across. Hanlon gets in front of Watt, but it springs away. And as I say, it really just felt like it came out of nowhere. Felt like it, not in the sense that like it was against the run of play. It was just like the ball bobbled about in the midfield like that all afternoon, and it just happened the first time. They just knocked it over the top, and it's 1-0. The second goal follows very quickly on, but just before we get to that, Barry Robson in his post-match makes the assertion that we could have had 3 penalties. So let's talk about them as we get to them. Now, the first one is Paul McMullen. He's kind of driving into the box, almost along the byline. Gets himself in front of, I think it's Paddy Redding, who then it kind of clatters into the back of him, or there's contact anyway. Now, I'm going to sort of put my cards on the table on this one early on. I thought this was a penalty in real time, and there is no reaction. Paul McMullen could not look less interested. He's got no interest in this at all. So I think it might just be me and Barry Robson who thought this was a penalty. But
no, I was screaming for it in the stand as well. I'm with you.
Like, I can see why you wouldn't, because it's one of these cases where, like, McMullen moves his foot across the front of Redding. But I don't see why that shouldn't be a penalty. I've never understood that. Like, so what? You still kicked the back of his leg. Like, what's the matter? Paul McMullen should be able to put his legs wherever he wants. Iain, what do you think to this one?
Nah, not a penalty for me.
I'm glad you said that, for at least for the purposes of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not even playing devil's advocate or that. It's just not, like, there's not a lot of contact. And as you say, McMullen's like a Doug chasing after a ball, trying to, like, you know what I mean? He gets up off the ground and he's straight off after it. There's no claiming whatsoever. I don't think any of our players really claim either, like other players. Not for me at all.
Yeah, that's well, especially when I looked at it back, and I was like, yeah, Paul McMullen has doesn't even glance at the referee at all, and he's obviously got a much better understanding of the game of football than I ever will. So I think we'll take.
I think it's probably worth saying it is probably the best of the 3 though that he's claiming for.
Oh, well, we'll see as we go through.
Too, so.
But yeah, we could easily end up with sort of 3 different votes for the 3 of them here. Although I think my kind of overriding thing was, like, I think if you add all 3 of them up, on the aggregate, we maybe should have had a penalty, but on their own, I'm not entirely sold. But yes, we'll come to the other 2 as we go through. But very quickly after that, only 13 minutes into the game, it's 2-0, and this time it's Aidan Fitzpatrick again. This one is the even more obvious targeting of our right back. I think, is it a free kick? I think it's Ashcroft. Maybe he's just got the ball at his feet, but he's under kind of no pressure. He's got the entire park in front of him to choose what he wants to do, and what he wants to do is sling a big diagonal right on top of Josh Mullen, and quite literally is right on top of Josh Mullen, because he can only sort of header it directly up into the air. And as it comes back down, with this one, it's Paddy Redding just sort of nods it into Fitzpatrick's path. Now, I think probably the big difference with this is we do have the bodies back. Doherty's in the right place. He gets across, gets his body in the way and stands him up. But Aidan Fitzpatrick this is just a lovely little bit of skill. It's almost like a fake step over. He sort of starts half a step over and then just kicks the ball past them. But did really well, really, really well. Effectively, it's just, you will not see a clearer example of just beating your man. That takes him into the box as he shoots for the near post. I think it's sort of with the help of Ross Matthews' toes, it goes past Josh Ray. We'll do the same thing again. We'll just do kind of post-mortem and who you want to kind of, or where you find your points of prevention. Blair, come to you first on this one.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's just genuinely really good forward play. At the time, I was raging. I was really annoyed. I was like, Ray at the front post again. I'm like, coming on that right side again. But, I mean, Doherty probably, he's the one place where you're like, if he just sticks a toe out or he just gets a foot on the ball or whatever, maybe that's the point of prevention. But I think you've got to give credit where it's due. Genuinely, I think you're right. I think it's a really good bit of forward play. And Josh Ray is really unlucky because he's actually squared up for where the ball's probably going to go. And then Ross Matthews pretty much changes the direction of the ball. I mean, it's as close to an own goal without it being an own goal you're going to get, because the two of them seem to kick it at the same time. It's not even like it's a deflection. Like the two of them literally leathered the ball at the same time. And it's so close that you can't expect a goalkeeper to change direction that quickly. It's just, really disappointing because it just felt soft. I mean, it was a good goal, but it was soft.
I guess it's not unlike the other one where it's a loose ball in the midfield, and 8 seconds later the ball's in the back of the net. Iain, your thoughts on this one, please?
Yeah, Mullen obviously headers it straight up in the air rather than getting any sort of distance on it. And then as it's dropping, Brown and Matthews are kind of looking at one another as if to say, are you going to go for it? And then they leave it for one another, which enables who is it that it drops on the Thistle player? Is it Crawford?
Reading.
And then he obviously just nods it into the path. But like when Fitzpatrick gets the ball, he's like 30 yards for goal, almost on the touchline, and we've got 3 players between him and the goal. And then it's a great bit of skill, but it's like, I was speaking to one of my mates in one of our group chats earlier, he described it as like 5-a-sides level defending. Where like there's a boy that's just much better, and he's able to just skip between the two defenders and poke it in the net. Ray probably saves it with his legs without the deflection from Matthews, which, listen, it's going to happen. There's a lot of bodies in the box, and Matthews is desperately trying to get his toe on to block it, and he just inadvertently kind of deflects it. But Ray probably kicks it away, or it hits like the inside of his calf or his ankle without the diversion on the ball. Unlucky, good bit of skill. That's what you're going to come up against Thistle. They're going to get the ball to the wide players and try and make something happen, and that's kind of exactly what happened.
I wonder if the fact that we've got so many bodies there actually ends up contributing to it. See if Docherty's trying to defend that on his own and he doesn't have Mullen coming in, I think he might just take the foul. But he's almost like, all I need to do is slow you down because my mate's coming.
Yeah.
So he doesn't commit, and it's just opens the door for Fitzpatrick, who's still got loads to do.
I think when there's 2 as well, naturally there becomes a gap between the 2 defenders. And if you're a good forward, in your head you're like, all I need to do is get between them here, and you're either going to get by them or the combination of the 2 of them will bring you down. I think it creates, like, it makes the attacker's mind up for you when there's the 2 defenders, because like all they need to do is skip between you.
You see Easton do that all the time.
Yeah.
Where he sees the 2 coming and he knows, I might put the ball one way or the other, but I'm going to go between the 2 of you because it just doubles the chance I'm going to be fouled here.
I was actually going to say that's a goal I've seen Aidan Connolly scored loads of times. That exact goal. It's an Aidan Connolly goal, but on the other side. Just skip, shoot. Like, it's too easy.
That's Fitzpatrick, I think, maybe more so than Logan Chalmers, but maybe this is just the times I've seen them. Feels like an on his day kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think in games against us, he hasn't had many at all. I feel like sometimes you see him on a Friday night in a game for Thistle against someone else, and you're like, he's really decent, Fitzpatrick. Like, he is a real standout. And he's not really done it against us very often, but obviously did yesterday. You can see why.
I saw the Thistle fans on Pine Bovril were saying when Watt scored, Watt made a big point of kind of pointing towards Fitzpatrick and going to kind of directing the crowd's celebrations towards him, and they were comparing and contrasting that to what it would have been if Brian Graham's on the end of that cross. Brian Graham's just taking the applause.
Yeah.
And they were mentioning that they thought that Graham had totally sapped Fitzpatrick's confidence last season from just berating him every week.
Yeah,
and I think having someone who isn't going to do that and who was going to like can laud praise on someone, you might see a different player for them. He's a superb winger. Like he for me, he's better than Chalmers. His end product's better.
The big thing is having the both of them as well. It's so difficult to defend against. You know, we've seen that in the past with the Rovers, where you've got like one really decent winger or one really on-form winger, and teams kind of cotton onto it. I think of that really purple patch that Dario Zanata had, and it was like, actually, teams kind of realised, like, well, he's the only one who's going to do that, so we can just put two men on him. Don't worry about, you know, the pudding on the other side. With Chalmers and Fitzpatrick, they're both capable of doing that. You know, Chalmers obviously gets the third goal, but I think relatively speaking, he was quite quiet, and he was kept quite quiet. But Fitzpatrick obviously just...
when he's back fit as well, Lawless is the same player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Stevie Lawless
is exactly does play well against us.
Yeah, but it's that thing of, and that's what I'm saying. I think that's what made the whole the whole team lineup rather, a little bit infuriating, because it's not obvious. It's like, that is exactly how Partick Thistle are going to play against you. They're going to play wide, and certainly, again, just in my own time watching the Rovers against Partick, it's always wingers, always.
Yeah. Well, so this is interesting then, because it takes us to the next point. Now, obviously, there's the huge factor that we're now 2-0 down, but the Rovers changed their back four pretty much immediately. I think literally immediately. You know, by the time that they're reset for kickoff, Docherty's gone out to right back. It's a flat back four, and Mullins pushed up into the sort of 4-2-3-1. It's certainly settled into that. By Robson, by the end, is calling it a 4-2-4. I think it's ultimately all the same thing. We know broadly what we're looking at. It just depends how you kind of classify it. Iain, do you think the relative quietness of sort of Chalmers and Fitzpatrick after that point is because that four was better suited to defending against them, or is it more down to the fact that Thistle were already 2-0 up? And I suppose that there's another element of that of we were giving them more to think about because of the sort of attacking we were doing with that new system.
I think it probably comes from the fact that I think the 4-2-3-1 gets our best players into their natural positions, which naturally swings the game in our favour, because we can have more attacking situations with those players having the ball in the right areas. I don't think that Thistle went 2-0 up and then suddenly Fitzpatrick and Chalmers got the flip-flops on and couldn't be bothered. Do you know what I mean? I think it's that we restricted them the ball and we had much more of it. And naturally, like, the pendulum of the game just kind of swung the other way. I really hope that if we're going to take positives out of yesterday, it's that we're going to play that 4-2-3-1 more often. I think it fits our squad so much better. Like, if you're not going to play row anyway, then Stevenson's more than comfortable playing left back rather than left wing. And then you can get, like, your wingers playing on the wing and you can get strikers playing up front. I think it makes so much more sense.
I think you saw that in the second half. Paul McMullen in particular just looked a bit more at home. And that kind of wide, where it's a wide starting position. Yeah. And he's still coming in centrally. But to be fair to him, I mean, he had a big part to play in the kind of remainder of the second half. The goal back, again, I think came as a little bit of a surprise to me. It wasn't like there wasn't an awful lot of time. I think it comes roughly about 10 minutes after Thistle's second. But it did feel a little bit like, we kind of needed that penalty. You know, I think if we'd gotten to half-time and it was still 2-0, I don't know that we necessarily would have kind of mounted the same fight back. But this, to me... Well, so it's effectively, it's a little 1-2 between McMullen and Easton that really sort of takes Ashcroft out of the game, and he's got no choice I mean, he's got two choices, I suppose. He can either let McMullen go, or he can bring him down, and he chooses to bring him down. Blair, is this, in your opinion, is that kind of the best way to get at this Thistle side, that kind of direct running?
Yeah, I think it is in part. I think the shift to the 4 at the back, though, it nullified that diagonal, and I think it made them question, because there was a few times they tried to keep doing it and it stopped working, and it felt a little bit like they didn't have a plan B. And what it did is it forced McMullen out wide left, and like really wide left. So I know Ian's talking about a 4-2-3-1. I think it became that, but I think initially when he changed it, it was almost like a 4-5-1. It was a really, really wide, kind of right across the middle of the park. And yeah, I think just cutting out their out ball effectively, cutting out their diagonal, as well as kind of drawing the defence out. They seem to be playing with quite a high line quite a lot. And I don't know whether that was in response to us not having a striker on the park. But they were playing quite high up. So McMullen kind of got in behind a couple of times. And there's a couple of times you're going, it was close for offside or not offside. Easton had the same thing. But yeah, I think that's where we started to kind of get a little bit of joy. And I mean, this is the one penalty there's absolutely zero doubt on. Like, he absolutely clatters him. So, really good play, I thought, for McMullen, and really pleased that Ashcroft brought him down, because there's absolutely no way he's scoring. Like, there's zero chance that he's taking it around the goalie and slotting it in the bottom corner. So, like, the best chance we've got, I mean, we'll talk about Vaughan later on. Vaughan should have shot. McMullen, just wait for the penalty. Just wait for the tackle. Take it when it comes. But yeah, it was a really, really nice, tidy bit of play. And it did, you're right, it was 10 minutes, but there was about 5 minutes or so where it was kind of, the game was settling down and bedding in. And then that came at the end of kind of 2 or 3 minutes maybe of it's starting to turn and us starting to get a little bit more joy on the ball and stuff. So it was good to see them get rewarded quickly for the change, because that can also be something that, you make a change and it doesn't make a difference, and then the heads go down at that point. But yeah, it was a good opportunity taken well, I think.
Yeah, and of course, Dylan Easton scores a penalty. I didn't check. I can't remember the last time I said how many he scored in a row. Just add one to that. That's how it works. The next two things I've got in my notes are almost identical in the way that they start, and it goes to the point you just made there, Blair. So we've got penalty shout number 2 to deal with, and then we'll get to the second goal. Both of them, though, as I say, start with Callum Fordyce just really kind of chipping the ball over everybody into this huge amount of space that Thistle had left behind their back line. And this is where you'd think with, O'Reilly and Ashcroft, they're both quite happy to defend headers all day long and defend their 18-yard line. It did seem a bit kind of high risk to play higher than that. So the first one, is Easton kind of going beyond, and he gets a shove from, I think it's Ben Stanway. This one, Ian, you having that?
It's more of a penalty than the McMullen one for me. I think the best way to describe it, and the best way I can think to describe it, is if that's a chip in the middle of the park and someone pushes Easton like that, it's probably a foul, but I still don't think it's a penalty, because despite those rules being applied broadly across the park in the same fashion, it doesn't quite meet the threshold to be a penalty. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't, but I hope that you can understand what I mean. He holds his head, and I was watching the replay just before we came on. I don't think there's any contact with the head whatsoever. No. If anything, like, Stanley kind of gets his head on the ball and pushes him at the same time. So it wasn't a head knock, but it's one of them. It's 50-50. You've seen them given, you've seen them not. We've had our fair share, but I think that's more of a shout than the last one.
Blair, do you agree with that?
I'm exactly the opposite. Yeah, I mean, and I have to be honest, in real time, so there was two parts to it. One is I thought he was offside. Easton, as he makes a run. I instantly, as soon as he went, I was like, he's offside. And then the linesman didn't seem to do anything, which was pretty much his afternoon. But when they came together, in real time, it felt like he got flattened. Like, it felt like there was a real coming together. And then I watched the replay and I'm like, it's kind of just a wee nudge and Easton's gone down. I think Ian's right. Like, anywhere else in the park, you're probably going to get a free kick for it. If it had been the other way around and it had been on the defender, you'd 100% given him a free kick and turned it around, sort of thing. It's an easy decision. But I think that threshold for a penalty thing is almost like, has the referee got the stains to kind of just apply, is it a foul, is it not a foul, to everything that goes on in the park? And he clearly couldn't, because he was murder. But yeah, I felt that although there was probably less contact in the McMullen one, I felt he did take his standing foot, which to me was was enough to bring him down. I didn't feel like McMullen made the most of going down, more so by the fact he got straight back up and kept going. Whereas I think Easton made the most of going down, as Dylan Easton will do.
Yeah, I was kind of similar to you. In real time, I actually thought he'd been kind of dunted in the face. I really thought, he actually has taken a head knock there. I wasn't totally sold on it being a foul, but I thought, it looks like he has kind of taken a sore one. But you're right, kind of watching it back, if anything, it looks like it's maybe the ball that catches him. Or potentially it's Stanley's elbow or something, but it's on the blind side and you can't really see it. Not quite sure, but it's really just Easton's there first. And he's kind of stopping, and then Stanley's momentum's still there. There's contact with his hands, but he doesn't really kind of shove him over or really shove him out of the way. I'd be furious if that was given against us, I suppose, to apply that to it. I'm not overly convinced with that one. But at the time, it felt like it didn't matter very much, because very, very quickly after that, as I say, from almost exactly the same starting point, we do get the second goal. So this one, for Dice, is kind of, again, just sort of chipping it over the defence. It's a little bit shorter, this one, but Paul McMullen, his first touch is excellent. Really nice. Takes it on the chest. Just to sort of keep it within his control, but certainly right away from Ashcroft. Josh Clark, the goalkeeper, comes out to kind of deal with it. I actually think does pretty well. Josh Clark, I think, given that starting point, I think he does about as well as you could expect. Pushes Paul McMullen very, very wide. But again, credit to Paul McMullen. He kind of keeps the heat, doesn't panic, makes sure he keeps the ball in, gets his head up and waits for Ross Matthews. Cuts it back, and it's a good finish, nice and high, up kind of into the roof of the net. I mean, at this point, Ian, did you have a feel for how did you think the game was going to develop from that point? Did you think this was the momentum was with the Rovers, we were going to go on and really take control of this? Or did it feel just a bit more chaotic than that?
So, naturally, you've got the momentum because you've come back from 2 goals down. But I had a few texts at half-time from various pals at work and stuff like that, and he was asking how it was going. And I was saying it was an excellent comeback, but I think we're going to have to score again and probably score twice to get the win. Because I just felt as though Thistle were dangerous every time they went up the park. So great to pull it back and great to have that momentum in the game, but it was definitely hinging on us getting another goal, minimum, to get a point, and that is the way it played out. Just on like the actual goal itself as well, as you say, really good touch. Like, how many times have you seen someone try and take that touch and it's handball? So can control it with like their inside arm, but he takes it like flush right, like underneath the throat, basically to pull it down. And I'm shouting for him to shoot. I don't know why, because I've been every bloody game this season and I've watched Paul McMullen, so I'm really glad that he never. But he, like, you know, him. You see a lot of times where the player will go around the goalie with a strong touch, and then try and shoot anyway, and it's like a tight angle and it has the side netting, but he composes himself and cuts it back for Matthews, and Matthews' finish is actually better than I think we possibly give it credit in the when you watch it once, because if he doesn't put that high, Ashcroft's just on the line, and Ashcroft's a big brute of a boy. There's lots of them to hit, so he kind of gets it up above him, and that's your deep line midfielder that's getting on at the end of the cross. Easton, I think if that hadn't ended in a goal, Easton would have taken McMullen's head off as well. He was not impressed at not getting the cut back. So very thankfully for McMullen that ball ended up in the net.
Yeah, it's a clever little run from Matthews as well. And it sounds a bit kind of obvious, but it was a Thistle fan after the game had said, like, you know, the number of defenders we've got back there, we should do better. But really, Matthews is coming in at pace with Ben Stanley, and he just makes that little kind of change of angle at the right time. That just means he's in front of Stanley, and there's really nothing that you can do about it. Blair, what were your thoughts on this pass?
Yeah, just going to say a really nice pass for McMullen too. Like that's no easy to put it onto the foot of a boy who's running at pace. Because like you say, Matthews isn't jogging in; he's bombing in. And to put it on his foot and kind of in a way that allows him to just leather it. Like, I think Matthews leathers the ball, like properly hits it. But the weight of the pass, the positioning of the pass, and I actually thought that was kind of characteristic of McMullen's afternoon. I mean, his shooting might be rotten, but he's so calm on the ball. Like, everybody's kind of running about, and he seems to just slow down and take that extra touch and that extra wee jinky movement with his feet, and finds a pass, and he keeps going and keeps going and he keeps going, and you keep going, pass it. Oh, actually, he's still got the ball. He's fine. And that seemed to happen all afternoon. But yeah, really good. I thought the goalie was going to clatter him, so I think you're right. The goalie actually did really well, because I think McMullen was waiting for the goalie to clatter him. You know, he's doing that kind of thing of taking it wide, and you're just waiting for the goalie to wipe you out, and second penalty and away you go. But too many times I've seen us in a position like that and do nothing with it. It was actually really reassuring that we'd kind of gone across the face of goal, gone round the keeper effectively, keeper scrambling to get back in, and we actually got a goal from it. Yeah, it was a really nice, and momentum at that point. I genuinely thought at that point we were in the ascendancy. I thought this is looking good now. Like we just need to, do you know what I mean? If we can get another one before half time would be ideal, but get to half time and come out with a striker on the park, and we've got a chance of kind of getting at them a wee bit.
So this is the thing that's what I was thinking at half time as well, is one of the benefits of starting without any of your strikers is, you know, if you need a goal going into the second half, you've got all your strikers that you can call upon. It wasn't at half time, it was I did write it down. 53 minutes, so not long after half time. Barry Robson makes his first change. A little bit early by his standards, I think. Lewis Vaughan coming on to replace Josh Mullen. Blair, was that the right change for you?
Oh man, it's one of them. When's Lewis Vaughan ever not the right change? It's probably not the change I was shouting for. I was wanting Hamilton on. I wanted a focal point. I wanted something to get the ball to hold the ball up, to then have Easton, McMullen kind of buzzing around them, because I did feel like I say, they were so high, and it kind of felt like we needed somebody up there who was going to win headers and bring the ball down and kind of do that side of the game. But that said, when Vaughan came on, he did okay. Like, he's definitely not back to his best. It wasn't a Vaughan like, I didn't think anyway, a Vaughan like performance. It was a wee bit kind of wasteful at times, and yeah, we'll get on to his 68th minute nonsense soon, I'm sure. But yeah, just probably not the sub I would have made, to be fair. But I'm not a manager.
Yeah, well, I mean, Iain, at this same moment, effectively, if you could have run down the dugout and told Barry Robson, yes, carry on, or actually, no, stick Jack Hamilton on instead, what would you have gone for?
Yeah, they got Big Jack on, I think. I think we were really struggling to maintain the ball, like possession of the ball, in that final third. And I think when Vaughan came on, it didn't really change. Do you know what I mean? Like, the thing that we were struggling with was holding the ball up. And we made the sub to bring the boy on that wasn't going to help us to hold the ball up any more than what was already happening. Do you know what I mean? Vaughan was... I think, what I'm trying to say, all of the good things that Lewis Vaughan did when he came on the park were when he dropped in off the 9 position and into the 10, and that's where he can affect the game. I don't know whether we should be playing Lewis Vaughan up front as a 9, certainly not on his own. I think you probably get away with it if you've got someone in there like McMillan to possibly do his running for him. Or play him with Hamilton. I'm fine with that if the two of them want to play up front, but I don't know how much success we're going to get from Lewis Vaughan playing up front on his own. Like, he's not got the legs to run in behind, he's not going to win a header, and he's not really going to hold it up. So what is it that he's doing? Like if the ball drops to him in the penalty box, 9 times out of 10 he's going to score, and there's no doubt in that. But that's 5% of the game, 10% of the game when you're playing up front. And all of the good things he does are when he's not playing in that position. He went off for Brown. Is that right? He went off for Scott Brown?
Vaughan went off for Mullen. Hamilton went off. Hamilton was sub for Brown.
So
10 minutes
Brown had been playing in the 10 position. Not his game at all, by the way. Like, playing him in there. I get you want to keep him on the park, but when there's the other two like playing the deep position, I just don't think Brown's got the finesse or the deftness in his game. That's not his bag. And you can see the difference straight away when Vaughan actually dropped in there and started to link the play. I think there's probably a lesson in there.
Yeah, just to clarify that mumbling I tried to explain there. 53rd minute, Lewis Vaughan comes on for Josh Mullen. You then get 20 minutes where it's exactly that. Vaughan is the 9 and Scott Brown is basically playing as the 10. But then Jack Hamilton comes on for Scott Brown, and at that point they then swap. Hamilton goes to the 9, Vaughan comes to the 10.
Yep.
Now, I kind of disagree with you both.
Excellent.
I don't think it was a game for Jack Hamilton. I think that all the good stuff that we did in pockets throughout that game was because we weren't trying to play kind of hold up football in that sense. I think that's what Ashcroft and O'Reilly want to do. Yeah, I think it's the same as if you were basically coming up against this Rovers side and you go, well, you can either put a big fellow on to go and play for headers against Hanlon and Fordyce, or you can try and play 10 yards in front of them and force them to come and meet you. Or, if they step up, you can try and get the ball behind them and get in behind. And that's where those chances in the first half are coming from. The problem is, I think what we needed, and I'm not trying to be greedy, was 2 Lewis Vaughans. Basically. Because I don't think it worked initially. For those 20 minutes, as you say, it's just... Because when he... Once Hamilton is on, as you say, and then Vaughan is kind of in that 10 bit, he's got the sort of free rein where he's dropping back to the halfway line at points. What he does really well a lot of the time just goes to where Paul McMillan is. And the two of them are linking up really well. And then at least in theory, what you've got at that point is Jack Hamilton's still further up the park and he's in the box that you can then actually kind of create something. This is what I mean. If you had 2 of them, I think we almost needed Vaughan in the 10 to be part of the link-up play, and Vaughan as the 9 to do the finishing bit. And in the end, the way that he split it, it felt like for the first 20 minutes, it never really kind of clicked. And then once Jack Hamilton came on and we were, the game was, they get the goal at a certain point as well, and we were kind of chasing it. The game had kind of lost its shape a little bit, and just, I don't think Jack Hamilton worked out effectively, and I'm not sure putting him on 20 minutes earlier would have helped, basically. He won a couple of headers once he came on. He did get a couple of first contacts, but at no point was it sort of purposeful, if you know what I mean.
I think that's harsh. I thought Hamilton won more than his fair share of headers when he came on, and I thought his knockdowns were into generally good positions. Just nobody seemed to be on the same wavelength, and that might be fruits of him not having much game time, and players not quite being on the same level. But yeah, I thought Jack done well when he came. Well, he should score. I think if he scores his chance, then we're all saying I thought he's come on and affected the game and done well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he done all right when he came on, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a chance that's colouring my opinions there.
See on all of that. So I know we're really guilty as football fans, and definitely on a podcast, of oversimplifying formations, right? And we're playing this system or we're playing this system, and I get that it's not and it's fluid. But see, for me, until he makes the Hamilton sub, I don't think we were ever 4-2-3-1 until that point, because he'd set up with this Easton on his own up front thing at the end of the first half. And then he plays the first 7 or 8 minutes of the second half in much the same way. He then brings Vaughan on and pushes Easton out wide left because he takes Mullen off. And at that point, we were still almost like a 4-5-1. But then all that happened is Vaughan drops deeper and deeper and deeper. And we're back to playing with no striker. And it was almost like we went back to kind of what we started with. He then brings Hamilton on. So you're talking, 73, 74 minutes, something like that? He brings Hamilton on.
Yep, 73.
And they score like 2 minutes later. And so what he brought Hamilton on to do in that, at that point, I think he did go 4-2-3-1. Vaughan in the 10, Hamilton up in front of him. And you're going to have McMullen and Easton bombing about him. And they score 2 minutes later. And then it completely changes the makeup of the game. And they just didn't come out at us anymore. And that deep line, they just kind of drifted a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And it kind of robbed Hamilton of what he was there to do. Like, it was when he got brought on, the job he got asked to do 2 minutes later was a totally different job because the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because we shipped a goal.
I mean, I think probably the easiest way to think about it is the way that Barry Robson clearly thinks about it. He describes it as a 4-2-4. And it's probably, loosely, that's what it is. You've got a back four, you've got Byrne and Matthews holding, and then you've got 4 guys in some semblance of organisation, depending on who's got the ball and where they are ultimately. Let's just kind of ring back through, because we've kind of talked about the period of the game kind of generally, but very specifically there is this penalty shout. It's kind of Robson ball in full effect, really, which we didn't see a huge amount of, but it's Easton's pressure on kind of Paddy Redding, force him to just sort of cough the ball up to Paul McMullen. He slips in Lewis Vaughan, who sort of cuts the ball past Lee Ashcroft and goes down. Blair, I'll come to you on this one first. Your thoughts at the time and your thoughts having now seen it back, please.
Mirrored completely, because at the time it looked like a dive, and having watched it back, I still think it's a dive. I don't see any significant contact on him that makes him go down. I mean, I'm not saying there's no contact. It's a game of football, though. You're going to brush up against people and there's going to be contact, but there's never enough in my book to bring him down. I don't know. I love Lewis Vaughan. I always have and I always will. But criticism where criticism's due, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Like, if he just takes another touch, he's away from Ashcroft, he's got the keeper coming out to him, and all he has to do is slot in the bottom corner. You know, you do that kind of chop back across the goalie, easy finish. If it's not a dive, if I'm being harsh, he absolutely made it look like a dive. He went down like it was a dive. So if it's not a dive, he's only got himself to blame. And if it is a dive, he's not even on penalties. Dylan Easton's getting the goal. Like, I honestly, I didn't get it. I was so annoyed, and I still am, actually. I have to say, it was really frustrating.
Ian, I suspect you agree with Blair, so you can go next.
Yeah. It's not often that I find myself like angry at any Rovers player, let alone angry at Lewis Vaughan. But it's exactly how I felt at the time. It's like, this is the chance. Do you know what I mean? This is the chance we've been waiting on. And he has a kind of cursory arm across his chest. He knocks the ball through Ashcroft's legs. Just the only thing I can think that's going through his mind is that he's on his left foot, and that is possibly kind of nudging him towards rather get the penalty, and that's a safer bet of getting the goal than possibly having a kind of swing at it with his left foot. But he's so close in, all he needs to really do is hit the target. The goalie's coming out, do you know what I mean? And Lewis Vaughan's not terrible with his left foot either. So, yeah, it's so frustrating. Like, Blair's hit the nail on the head where he says, like, if it wasn't a dive, he's made it look like one. Spot on. Because, like, an arm across your chest doesn't make you fall in that manner. Just hit the shot, man. Just shoot. So annoying.
So, I'm going to shock you here.
Strap yourselves in, kids.
I disagree with you again. So, I didn't for a period. But now I do, again, disagree with you.
I'm going
so
to have to pull up a replay while you're talking, because I'm not seeing what you're about to say.
I've been watching this like the Zapruder film, just again and again. Lewis Vaughan and Dealey Plaza. So, when you're watching the replay, watch the second angle, the kind of close up, the one that's looking across the park. Watch Vaughan's right foot as he cuts inside. So this is like close up magic. We're all watching Ashcroft's hands. You need to watch his feet. Now, an angle from behind the goal would clear this up. I think he kicks Vaughan's toes. As Vaughan cuts inside, as I say, at the same point his arm comes across, Vaughan's planting his right foot, and I think it comes down on, like, Ashcroft, basically, they almost go toe-to-toe, and it knocks Vaughan's foot back, and that's when he almost can't plant his right foot, and that's how he falls. Can you see what I'm getting at? Are you seeing I'm seeing?
I'm not seeing it. I think that's incredibly generous.
Because it was the same thing. I was like, I'm not. It looked in real time to me, both in person and watching the video from like the wide angle when it's just at normal pace.
Nah,
it looks like there's kind of something there that'll put him down. And when you watch the slow mo, you're like, there's not enough there. There's kind of contact across his chest. As I say, I think if you slow it down, that's where I think the contact is.
I think you're right in the sense that there is contact on his right foot. Ashcroft basically kind of he goes to play the ball with his right foot, and Vaughan has basically shifted the ball away from him. And so rather than kicking the ball, he kicks Vaughan's right foot. But it's not his standing foot. That's the crucial bit of this. And this is what I think is the difference between, I was talking about McMullen one earlier, where I genuinely think it was his standing foot and therefore his weight's on it, which is what causes him to fall. Vaughan, I think, is different. He's standing on his left foot because he's just knocked the ball with his right. I think there's almost, if you slow it down, there's a split second where Vaughan thinks, he's just kicked my foot. I'm going to fall down. But in that time, he puts his right foot down and pulls it away from himself. There's no way that he can't plant his right foot, for me.
I don't know. Defender kicking striker's foot sounds like a penalty to me, mate. As I say,
if it's a penalty, he makes it look like it's not, is what my point is.
Which I think there is an element of that, and that always plays into it as well. And look, quite clearly, I'm obviously reaching, but there's more ambiguity, I say, than I thought there was. The first time I watched it, I was like, he's seen the arm go across him and he's gone down. I think there could very well be, though, kind of contact with his foot, which, yeah, who knows? As I say, if there was an angle behind the goal, you would be able to clear that up kind of perfectly. Either there is or there isn't.
If you go back to your earlier measure, if that had been given the other way,
I wouldn't have watched the replay 400 times if it had been given the other way. I'd have set my stall out nice and early and not watched the highlights. nevertheless, the penalty wasn't given, and very quickly after that, there is the final goal of the afternoon. Again, I think this is a move that kind of reflects the afternoon a little bit, in the sense that, for the most part, it's Thistle trying to kind of create an attack, but not quite managing it. And I don't mean that to sound bad. Like, I actually thought they had a decent game overall, but like, Josh Ray didn't have a lot of saves to make. And it's sort of like a second or third phase of being kind of around our box, but not in our box. The ball goes loose. Lewis Stevenson sort of slices it clear. As far as Dylan Easton, who tries to nod it back to Ross Matthews, but kind of puts it by him. You've then got Aidan Fitzpatrick, who is, what would have been sort of an offside position. He's beyond the last defender, but a player of his quality you don't need to ask him twice. He's onto it in a flash, and because he's already beyond the defence, all he's got to do is cut it back. And Logan Chalmers, again, to give him a lot of credit, he's very alive to it from the very beginning, and he's on hand at the back post to knock this one in. Iain, what are the lessons from this one? Is it as simple as don't header the ball back towards your own goal?
I think Easton's unlucky. Like, just the nature of it being, as you mentioned, the second or third phase of play is that there are players kind of everywhere, and the ball drops to Lewis Stevenson on his right foot in the centre half position, which is not something that would generally ever happen. And he gets the big slice on the ball, and the ball's obviously spinning, and I think Easton's tried to cushion the header, but not taking into account that there's going to be a lot of spin on the ball, which has kind of like made it rebound from his head with more velocity than he's anticipating. It's one of those where, as soon as we lost the ball, like as soon as that happens, straight away you're saying this is going to be a goal. Do you know what I mean? Like it was the nature of the way it happened. Straight away I was shouting, "Oh no," or less PG stuff than "Oh no."
Words to that effect.
It's a harder finish than I think it looks on first sight, because he's not within the width of the goals. Do you know what I mean? He's actually beyond the width of the goals, and you've got players going back, so he needs to get a good contact on it. So it's a good finish. The one thing I would say is that it probably goes past quite a lot of players in our box. Now, I know that they're not necessarily anticipating that cross is going to happen in the next 5 seconds as Stevenson's kind of getting his size 10 on the ball. But I just wonder how, could they get back any quicker and try and block the cross or try and get there? Do you know what I mean? It's basically gone across the entire 6-yard box, and Chalmers is at the back post to tap it in.
It's interesting to say that,
possibly splitting hairs.
Well, Barry Robson says almost exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
He says, once the ball goes to Fitzpatrick, we've got to do better. I think that's really harsh. I don't think there's any chance for anyone to do anything with it. Fitzpatrick basically, the ball is going past him as well. He turns, he plays it, and Chalmers puts it in.
Yeah, it's quick.
I mean, maybe if Fordyce can stretch one of his legs in a slightly different direction, can he get a toe on it? But it's, as I say, the reason I mentioned Fitzpatrick's in an offside position is not because I'm, picking issue with it. It gives him that advantage because he's already beyond the defence. He doesn't have to think about it. He just has to put it across the goal.
Yeah. Credit where it's due. It's actually a really good ball from Fitzpatrick. He puts a good bit of pace on it, and he picks it straight on. I mean, I talked about McMillan's ball into Matthews for our second goal. Like, credit where it's due. Like, he's had to put it across like he said, a lot of the box basically, and across a lot of players. But he's played it with a bit of pace. He's not just. How many times have we seen a player in that position and you think just put the ball in the area, just put it in the mixer and see what comes of it. Like, we've nothing to lose here. He doesn't do that. He's actually, like you say, he's afforded the time to just pick a man, and he picks him. Like,
you can see it now. You can see him have a look. Like, he doesn't just think, I just need to bang this into the danger area. He has a look, sees where Chalmers is, and then just zips the ball straight to him.
And exactly the same way McMillan does. It's so deliberate, and it deserves credit.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. After that, the Rovers still had chances. This is the big thing. It's there's two big ones. Well, really three, I suppose, that I've got noted here. The first one is one we mentioned already. So Richard Chin came on, did a little bit of work on the right-hand side, kind of cuts the ball back to Lewis Vaughan, who's now playing in that kind of deeper role. Jack Hamilton does really well, because really early in this move, he's got his hand up. You can see exactly where he wants to be, what he wants to do. Vaughan does as well. Really good cross to the back post. Completely takes the defence out. And I don't quite know what it is that Jack Hamilton's sort of doing, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know if he's caught in two minds, if he's... I'll ask one of you. Iain, what do you think Jack Hamilton's sort of plan is there?
Yeah, it's so awkward that I don't think he's fully aware of which body part he should use to try and get the ball in the net. I've got written down, just bundle it in. Do you know the one where you just kind of body it into the net by like your thigh or your shin or like your bossack, or like just get it in the net? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I think he thinks too late about what he's going to do and then tries to just use his right foot, probably through instinct, because that's what you would normally do. But it's just landed in such an awkward position where it's not quite a header, it's not quite a right foot, it's not quite a left foot because he's off balance. Really awkward. Having said all that, it has to end up in the net. You need to find a way to get that in the net. You're number 9. Put it in the net.
He ends up sort of shaping his body exactly like you would want a defender to do. He's opened his body right up so that when he touches it, the ball just keeps going. Whereas I actually think it's a better chance than he's expecting. Yeah. I think he's almost banking on, I'm going to have to compete for this. Like one of these two defenders is going to be on it, and I'm going to basically have to like clatter through him. And in the end, he's actually free. And you're right, it's like he kind of decides, I'll side foot it in with my right foot, but his momentum's already kind of tipping him over. Whereas it's obviously really easy to say in hindsight, but I think what he needs to do is just square himself up so that it is that where he's almost, like a hockey goalie. He's just going to let the ball hit him, and it doesn't really matter where it's going to then bounce back into the goal, rather than what he does, which is turns away so that he just kind of shuffles it past the post. But very quickly, on the back of that, we then also have Paul McMullen hits the underside of the bar. I just think that was the point. We just think, right, this just isn't happening for us today. Just to bundle them all together, very quickly after that, you then also got Jordan Docherty with the volley kind of coming in at the corner of the box that I'm not quite sure if it meets the side net or not, but certainly he's not very far away, gets a nice good contact on it. Blair, are you picking holes in any of these, or is that just a case of this just isn't going for us today?
I think it is just exactly that. It's just, the Jack Hamilton one for me, there's kind of two bits that play into it, and that one is I think he probably scores that if he's got more football in his system. He's not played an awful lot, and I think there is that kind of rustiness that comes in from not having played an awful lot of football. The other ones though, Doherty's he's not an attacker, he's not a striker, so getting it towards the goal is in fairness, is probably as much as you can expect from a player in that position. If it's on target, it's better, but it's not quite. And McMullen, it's like water is wet. Dylan Easton scores penalties and Paul McMullen doesn't he? Like, I honestly, he baffles me. He absolutely baffles me because he's great. He's really good. But how can he no score? I didn't understand it. I just didn't. Yeah, really frustrating afternoon where it just all turned to that kind of it's not happening, boys.
I'm really laughing at your description of Jordan Docherty there, like really damning him with faint praise. He done well to kick it towards the goal. Well done, Jordan.
But I think, I know that was
thumbs up for us, boys.
Yeah, I know. I think the point I was making is it wasn't like an easy chance. Do you know what I mean? He's effectively taking the ball out of the air and volleying it towards the goal. There's not an awful lot of boys that play centre half that are doing that on a regular basis, but fair enough. That was maybe a wee bit condescending of me.
Well, it's funny when you were talking about Paul McMullen earlier on, and you were saying that he just seems to be that little bit, like in a good way, operates that kind of slower pace than anyone else. He thinks about it a little bit more. I was thinking, he's kind of like the kind of attacking Sean Byrne. And also there's another ticket like that Venn diagram that's just got slightly bigger in that middle section. If we're not going to get goals,
maybe that's what it is. Maybe Sean Byrne knows he can't shoot, so he doesn't. Whereas like McMillan needs to either no shoot or start playing defensive midfield. I don't know what it is. Like it's just so frustrating, man.
Okay, to be fair, I actually think the goals will come for him. I think that's like. The Sean Byrne thing's obviously different because you see it sometimes. You're like, shoot, and he cuts away or whatever. Like McMullen's going close, and you'll not get much closer than that one.
Oh man,
and
he deserved it too. He worked really hard. He actually had a really good game, really good 90 minutes of running. Like, and it's so purposeful, the running. Because we've had that in the past as well before. You have boys who run, and they didn't really do anything. Like, he always offers something. Just frustrating.
The speedboat with a driver. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's very much got the driver. We've had a lot of players who never. But he's definitely got one. I think he just needs to get the goal. See once he gets the goal. And I also think that, if we change the shape and he goes to playing left, the onus will come off him and the pressure might come off his shoulders and then the finishing might come a wee bit more naturally.
He needs to play out wide.
That possibly comes in the next couple of weeks.
Right, I've got 2 questions left and we've been going for a while, so I'm going to ask you each one of these. So, first of all, Blair, I'll come to you on this one. So, on balance, 3-2 win for Thistle. Do you think that's a fair reflection on the game?
It's not unfair. I think it was one of those games where had it finished 2 each, it'd have been fine. Had we won at 3-2, it'd have been fine. And if they win at 3-2, you've got to kind of hold your hands up. It's fine. It's a frustrating afternoon, but it's not a game where you're walking out and going, "Oh my God, how on earth did they ever get?" Like it was one of the games.
This is it. I mean, I think off the top of my head, I can think of one save in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Like, there was loads of chances and there was loads of shots and loads of football and loads of penalty claims to varying degrees. But, like, it feels like the kind of game that, should have been settled by an odd goal in 5 and ultimately kind of could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And I suppose that kind of leads me on to my second question. Because you'll see games sometimes between 2 very bad teams that go like that, where like there's loads of chances because the defending's all over the shop and all that kind of stuff. But just as I was getting in the car, I caught Ian McCall was the kind of sports sound person at the game. And he was, first of all, I think as you would if you were a neutral, really kind of going on about how much he'd enjoyed the game. But he also said that he reckons that's 2 sides who'll finish in the top 4. I also think potentially said he could see one of them going on challenging for the title. Ian, would you agree with that?
I don't think we're going to be too far away, and I don't think Thistle are going to be too far away. I'm not going to be drawn much more than that on where teams are going to finish after this many games in the season. I don't think there's much to be gained from that. So much to happen. Players will get injured, players will get sold, there will be suspensions. There's so much that could happen. It was an excellent game between 2 good championship sides. Lots of attacking threat, and just to kind of steal Blair's question, I think we're a wee bit unlucky not to get a draw. on the balance of the number of chances that we've had. I've seen us win games and not play as well as that many times in the last couple of years.
Very true.
I was thinking about that in the context of, like, we were 13 games unbeaten, and then obviously we get beat yesterday, but I'm not sure that's even in, like, the bottom half of, like, performances in that run.
Definitely not
even close.
Do you know, with the greatest of respect to the manager and the players and everything, I don't think we've necessarily looked like a 13-game unbeaten team.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean? Obviously, it's Stradla summer, which changes it anyway, but it was, going a quarter of a season built on kind of grit and fight and all that, and more than sort of outright quality. But there was a lot of quality in that game yesterday. It just so happened that it didn't come out for us on the day. And again, I said this to you yesterday, like, I don't feel like we sort of learned anything about Partick Thistle yesterday either. Like, the stuff that they did that was really good is the stuff we know they're really good at. And like I say, like, Fitzpatrick sometimes blows hot and cold, but when he's on his game, he's brilliant. And he was on his game yesterday, and he was brilliant. And the wee bits of joy that we did get, you probably could have kind of predicted out of that Thistle side as well. And it will be interesting to see, because it's felt like that way the last couple of seasons with Thistle. You kind of go, they should be better than they are, almost. And it'll be really interesting to see. Probably over the next, round and a half of games, could take us up to about Christmas, the difference that Mark Wilson's making. I think a lot of us, and I mean us, including myself, were quite kind of snide about Mark Wilson. He was very clear that it was a second choice. They made that very clear. But he seems to have gone off to a relatively good start, so we're interested to see how much they keep that up.
See, on the Thistle of it all, like, the one thing I did learn yesterday from that game is about Tony Watt, actually. And I know, I mean, he's a pantomime character. Like, everybody loves to hate him, and he loves to be hated. Like, he absolutely adores getting abuse. But he was really, really effective yesterday. Like, he ran his channels, he bodied some defenders, he got his goal, he did what he needed to do. Like, when Brian Graham walked away, I'd said to a couple of mates at the time, I might have even said on the podcast, I'm not sure, but like, the Partick Thistle job is a very different job when you've got a 25-30 goal a season striker in your squad to taking over a team that doesn't have a 25-30 goal a season striker in the squad, which is effectively what Mark Wilson's had to do. And then you look at it and they've replaced him with Tony Watt, which on paper you're going, nah, nowhere near the kind of quality. But actually, I think Ian kind of hit on it earlier on in the show, talking about the difference in the kind of atmosphere, the ethos about that team. It's no longer Brian Graham running about the park screaming at everybody for no giving them his ball. Like, I think Tony Watt might actually be pretty good for them this season. I think he might actually be a really good replacement for Brian Graham, because he'll make Partick better rather than carrying Partick, which is what Brian Graham seems to have done for quite a while, just by the very nature of the fact that he doesn't let anybody else take part.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, Chalmers and Fitzpatrick, two of the best players in the division.
Definitely.
So if you've got a striker who can bring those two players into games more, that should be better than just having one, really effective striker. Particularly because, as you say, Tony Watt will get goals as well. So yes, that will be annoying to watch. You're right. See how that develops. Because I have to tell you, I still remain to be convinced by their backup option, Alex Samuel.
Yeah, same.
Not overly convinced. By the way, I thought Hanlon's motion was ludicrous for that. When he's trying to get back to defend, Sam was just holding him down, right in front of that linesman, who, as you say, had about as much impact in the game as I did, sitting 12 yards behind him.
I don't think he made a decision the whole game.
That's the easy choice.
Decision.
No. And actually both ways as well. See the amount of times that he blew for a foul, he played advantage, and then brought the ball back when the team still had the ball and were in the ascendancy. He did it to both teams, like 2 or 3 times. Like, the ref was awful. Really bad.
Yeah, just some of these ones where you think, like, even you can never properly kind of divorce your bias from it, but like some of them, for Dice's booking, I thought, was like,
O'Reilly
I think it was his first foul of the game, and it was the boy at Sosa, but he'd already played his pass away, so like it was an entirely futile foul. Like, Fordyce had actually gained no advantage. He just kind of caught him, but he didn't catch him. Like, he wasn't like, studs up or anything. Like, he more or less wrapped his arms around them.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got O'Reilly on the other side, 2 or 3 times. Again, no brutal fouls, but it was like, we'd play the ball up and he'd foul whoever it was, and then they'd just drop back. And you just think, man, I don't understand the logic behind these decisions.
I thought that let Sosa was pretty decent, actually. The wee boy, he's the guy that was at Celtic, wasn't he?
Yes. So he was released in the summer. So joined Thistle. They'd been raving about him so much. I think I maybe had kind of high expectations. He was a wee bit quieter than I thought he was. But almost on the flip side, I was really impressed with Ben Stanley. And not just because for the first 10 minutes I had him and Robbie Crawford. I hadn't realised that was 2 separate guys. I was just seeing this blonde guy who was everywhere. It's like, Ben Stanley's bloody incredible. But even setting that aside, I thought he had a really decent game. He's another one who's obviously kind of grown into a championship player. Right, listen, this has been another really long one. So just one thing before we go. I have a message of appreciation to pass on from Graham Meldrum and Alan Douglas Munn. The boys ran the Kirkcaldy Half Marathon this morning to raise funds for the Community Foundation. I think it's season tickets for kids, which is a great cause, of course. Last count, before we started today, they were just a wee bit short, just closing in on £1,000, which is really, really good going. Blair, I think you were down there. You managed to catch them earlier on?
Yeah, I went out on the bike this morning and managed to get up to Duncan House in time. Grabbed a couple of bags of jelly babies on the way up and was dishing them out. To be fair to them, the 2 of them looked pretty fresh when they came through Duncan House. I quite enjoy the Kirkcaldy Half because I stay up that side of the town, so I'm always up at Dunny House kind of cheering folk on. And it's the thing of, you're at the top now, it's all downhill for here, but they've still got Dyser to come. Like, it's not an easy half marathon, like it really isn't. But really good turnout, and they got a good day for it as well until the rain kind of came in right tail end. But well done to the boys. It was a really good effort for the 2 of them.
Definitely. So a massive well done to the lads. A massive thank you to everyone who's contributed so far as well. And a massive get your hands in your pocket to anyone who hasn't. There's a Just Giving page, and the link will be in the show notes, as is usually the case. For our part, we will be back later in the week with a preview of another trip to the Wild West. I don't know that Anthony Bourdain ever managed to sample the delights of Greenock. Never saw that episode, but we will next Saturday, and you'll hear our various thoughts on what that might look like at some point during the week. So thank you once again, guys, for joining me. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will speak to you again then. Bye.